Welcome all to Plutus IAS. Today we are going to discuss another chapter in our NCERT series. The chapter is of class 7th and we are going to discuss about lithosphere. In the previous lecture also we have discussed a lot about lithosphere. So now we are doing the detailed version of it. So what is lithosphere? It is the uppermost part. It is the uppermost part of the earth, of crust. It is the uppermost part of mantle, right? It is a top layer of the crust, the layer of the crust that we have, whether it is about oceanic crust or continental crust, both will be considered in this. And along with that, it consists of uppermost part of mantle. Okay, so this is the definition. Now how is the movement? So movement of this plate causes changes on the surface of the earth. So whenever there is a movement of these plates, what will happen? There will be some kind of changes. So this changes can be from the inside of the earth. For example, there could be a sudden changes and there could be changes which are not visible to our naked eyes, but those changes are happening and we cannot feel or see them, but they are happening inside the earth's crust. So what are these? Just let's discuss them. So the movement of these plates can cause changes. The movement are divided into two parts: endogenic forces and exogenic. First, understand what do you mean by endogenic and exogenic. Then we'll discuss about what is included in this. Endo means inside. Endogenic. Endo means inside and exo means outside. So force applying in the inside of the earth's crust is endogenic, and the force applied or which is working, the force working on the outside of the earth's crust is known as, on the top of the earth crust, is known as your exogenic forces. For example, we'll discuss about the examples now: endogenic and exogenic. In endogenic also we can divide the process into two parts, which is the sudden and the activities which are taking lot of time. So endogenic can be further divided into two parts: the process which is taking suddenly and the process which is taking time. So the events which are sudden are your earthquake, volcanoes, landslides, etc. But the time taking processes are known as diastrophic forces. These diastrophic forces take time and they are invisible. For example, your mountain building. So when we talk about the orogenic forces, which are helpful in the building of mountains, so which is known as what? Diastrophic forces, which are responsible for building mountains. Now what are the exogenic forces? The forces which are working on the earth's crust, for example your river, your wind, your etc. So all these forces, your sea waves, your glacier, these forces are exogenic forces. Okay. So there is a formal definition also. The endogenic sometimes produce sudden movement, and sudden movements like earthquake, volcanoes causes problem. Now let's look at the volcano in detail. When the magma, so what is the basic difference between magma and lava? So magma is the molten substance which is inside the earth. So when it is inside the earth, we call it as magma. Therefore we call the magma chamber is here. Okay, the magma chamber is deep inside the earth. From where the magma is coming is, it's a molten form. From where it is coming? From the magma chamber which is deep inside the earth. Then what is coming outside? This molten form is coming outside. When it comes outside, it converted or maybe we call it as lava. When it is inside, we call it as magma. When it comes outside on the earth surface, when the molten form of the substance has come outside of the vent of the volcano, then we call it as lava. So volcano is a vent opening. Vent is nothing but an opening, a place, a kind of a channel from which the molten magma is coming outside, through which the molten material erupts. Similarly, when lithospheric plates move, the surface of the earth vibrates. The vibration can travel all around the earth. Now, when the movement of the plates are happening, the earthquake is coming because one of the factor is also the movement of the plates. There is a fault, and when the movement happens, what will happen? There is a kind of a focus, right? There is a kind of a vibration. This vibration is coming from a place which we call it as focus. So inside the earth, this is earth, inside of it we have a point from where the generation of this vibration has occurred. So this point is known as focus, and this focus brings some kind of changes on the earth's surface, right? So this is known as epicenter. This is known as epicenter. So the place in the earth's crust where the movement starts. Please focus on these points because small details are essential for the prelims point of view. So these vibrations which are taking place inside the place in the crust where the movement starts is focus. The place on the surface above the focus is called epicenter. Vibration travel outwards from the epicenter as wave. Greatest damage is usually closest to the epicenter and strength of the earthquake decreases away. So whenever the earthquake comes, we always ask about the epicenter. Where was the epicenter located? So it tells about the magnitude, that how far the earthquake vibrations can go, and then we can detect the intensity as well, right? Next, this is the diagram which can help you to understand the focus. So they have also shown the focus here, like I have shown here. They have also shown the focus in the diagram here. This is where the earthquake occurs. It is the origin. So this focus is the origin. Please, these are important lines. That focus is the origin of seismic waves. It is the origination point. But just above the focus there is a point, right? The place on the surface of above the focus is called epicenter, right? Alright, so these are some of the examples which have been given from the previous events. Like what you can do, you can understand the current examples also. Current examples means current events related to the earthquake, where it has happened. You can study those areas. Why? Because current news become more important with respect to your UPSC syllabus. Now, major landforms. So exogenetic forces we have talked about, it is working outside, right? So how many of them are there? River is working, right? So landscape has been continuously worn. Weathering is the breaking of rocks. So weathering is another terminology which is important in this chapter. What is weathering? It is nothing but the breaking of the rocks on the earth's surface. Erosion is weathering away of the landscape by different agents. So what are these agents? We have already talked about them: water, wind, ice, etc. Now what is the work of river? So running water in the river erodes the landscape. When the river tumbles at the speed over a very hard rock down the steep valley, it forms the waterfall. Not only that, in the later part of the syllabus you will also study that river also form gorges. River have the power to form a deep valleys which we call gorges, and gorges are found in a V-shaped form in the Himalayan region. Okay, so that is the power of river, that they can also create a kind of a valley. River enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming the large bends known as meanders. So when we talk about the steep valley, right, it basically forms where? In the upper elevation area. When the area is elevated, then the waterfall is bound to happen. Now there is a very important term which has been used here, meanders. What are meanders? So rivers have three stages, which is mature, youth and old. This is young, this is mature and this is old. Okay, so in youth stage, for example, we can take the example of Ganga only. The youth stage, the flow of the river is going to be very high, the speed is going to be very high. But in the mature stage, the speed becomes very less, and in the old stage it becomes even more less, right? So when meanders are happening, it happens in the mature and old stages of river. So since the speed is becoming less, so whenever there is going to be obstruction, for example, this was the flow of the river. When there is going to be obstruction in the mid path of the river, then what will happen? It cannot cut through the obstruction part. For example, boulder is there, some big rock is there, stones, etc. It could be anything. But because the speed of the river has gone slow, बहुत slow हो चुका है speed river का, अब what will happen? It will, in spite of cutting down this, it will change its course according to the boulders or any obstruction which has come in its path. So since it is meandering, this is what is called the meandering. It is running away from the obstruction, right? It's following this path. Okay, so this is called meandering. Now when it meanders a lot, for example, it is taking a big U-shaped curve, so what will happen then? It is bound to form Oxbow Lake also. The feature of Oxbow Lake is found in this. Okay, so due to the continuous and erosion and deposition along the sides of the meander, the end of meander loop come closer and closer. So how they will come closer? Just like this, it will come closer, right? And there will be some point where it will be away from this whole channel and it will be separated like this. It will be separated like this from this channel. Okay, so this is the phenomena. In the due course of the time, the meander loops cut off. This is what is cutting off. This is what is cutting off. Why? Because river is now tired of taking so much of path like this. Okay, so what it will do? It will now cut off from here. Okay, so Oxbow Lake is also from here. At times the river overflows its bank. This leads to the flooding. This is the common phenomena where the overflowing causes the flooding, right? And this leads to the formation of flat, fertile floodplain. Okay, so now the next thing is the river begins to break up into number of streams called distributies. What will happen? This is the main channel. Okay, when the obstruction will come in the path, so despite of moving like that, it will move in a different direction. It will move in a different direction like this. Okay, so when it moves in a different direction like this is known as distributies. When the obstruction has come in between, what will happen? It will go in the different direction because it cannot follow its main stream. This is the main stream. This is the main channel. It cannot follow this. Why? Because obstruction has come. Since the obstruction has come, it will take the different course. Okay, this will take a different course. So this is having what? More volume and speed, because this is a mainstream. The river becomes so slow that it begins to deposit its load. Now siltation, sedimentation, etc. activities are also happening because the speed will become low. When the speed becomes low, then the sedimentation also enhances. What is the work of? Okay, the collection of sediments from the mouth forms a delta. Now this is a very important definition of delta, that the collection of sediments from all the mouths form the delta. We have a very famous Sundarban delta in West Bengal, which is highly fertile area and it is the source of lot of different crops which are being grown there. Now work of sea waves. Erosion and deposition of sea waves gives rise to coastal landform. Sea waves continuously strike at the rock. Cracks develop over the time. They become larger and wide. These hollow, the caves are formed on the rock. These are called sea caves. Sea caves are nothing but regularly what is coming, the sea waves are coming and they are forming the cracks. As these cavities become larger and bigger, only the roof of the caves remain, thus forming a sea arcs. If you can see here, if this diagram is quite visible to you, here you can see the sea arc. They have formed a sea arc here, right? And why it is been formed? Because waves are coming and they are eroding the part of a rock here, this cave here, and therefore this sea arc have been formed and here the sea cave have been formed. Further erosion breaks the roof and only walls are left. These walls like feature are called stacks. So this is stack. Now what will happen? This roof is also gone and then walls are also gone. Only this amount of rock is there which is standing still in the ocean. So the erosion breaks the roof also and walls also. So this is known as stack. Now the steep rock coast rising almost vertically above the sea water is called the sea cliff. So these are some of the important terminology that you have to focus. Like you don't need to read all of them, but you have to focus some of the terms which I have told you. Now what about the work of ice? Glacier, right? So glacier is also responsible for the erosion. Now glaciers are rivers of ice which start to erode the landscape. Okay, so next we have to take what? The most important term here is glacial moraines. What is glacial moraines? You don't have to worry about these heavy terms. You need to just simplify all of these. What are the moraines? Simply how the river is taking lot of siltation along with them, right? And they are depositing. Similarly, glaciers also take lot of silt, debris along with them. And then when the debris and other particles, silt, etc. are being taken, so this is known as glacial moraines. Simple. Okay. So also you can take the formal definition. The material carried by the glacier such as rocks and the small sand and silt gets deposited. These are known as glacial moraines. This is a diagram of the glacial moraine here. Now what is the work of the wind? Now this is very simple also. Here the sand dunes are important which we found in deserts. Okay. An active agent of erosion and deposition in the desert. In desert you can see rocks in the shape of mushroom, etc. And then when it stops flowing and sand falls and get deposited in the low hill like structure, these are known as sand dunes. Sand dunes are very common phenomena. When you have gone to Jaisalmer, etc., you can see the sand dunes. This is all about this chapter. I have been telling you enough number of times that the back exercise are really important. I hope you are following the instructions, and we will meet you in the next lecture with next chapter, and please revise the previous chapters as well. Thank you so much.